Lest we forget. Lest we forget, A Better World for Youth presents Educating Youth for Democracy. While America is fighting the most important war in our history, while the men and women of our nation are making the greatest sacrifices to ensure our victory and the maintenance of the democratic way of life, what of young America? What of the youth of our nation, those young boys and girls who are not yet old enough to serve directly in our great struggle? What of the youth of whom the orators so often speak these days?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, when we resolve the question, we can see that the great reason for our struggle is not to free the world from tyranny just for ourselves. It is to ensure the freedom we now enjoy for those generations who are to come after us. The young boys and girls of today, their children and their children's children, those are the people we're fighting for. We're fighting to keep the precious heritage of freedom for those whose duty it will be to rebuild and fortify a war-torn world.
And how are we keeping the light of liberty burning in our children's souls? The orators can tell us that, too.
There is no more precious gift that we can give to the youth of America than a free, democratic education, the kind of education that every American is entitled to. Not just reading and writing and arithmetic. You can learn those things anywhere. But American schools teach the gospel of democracy, equal opportunity, tolerance, fair play. Our schools teach the ideals that formed the beginnings of this country, the ideals that have made it great and shall continue with God's will to keep it great.
That's true. You can learn a lot of things in the Little Red Schoolhouse. Some really great men have come from humble beginnings. It was what they learned at school that gave them their opportunity to become great. When young America had just come into its own more than 150 years ago, one of the first problems to confront our new government was public education. Listen to what Thomas Jefferson said.
Above all things, I hope the education of the people will be attended to. Educate and inform everyone. Enable them to see that it is to their interest to preserve peace and order, and they'll preserve them. They are the only sure reliance for the preservation of our liberty. Preach a crusade against ignorance. Establish and improve the law for educating the common people. The tax which is paid for this purpose is not more than 1,000th part of what will be paid to kings and nobles who will rise up among us if we leave the people in ignorance.
Yes, that's what Thomas Jefferson said. And as time passed and the rugged pioneers started their ceaseless westward drive against the frontiers, log cabin colonies sprang up in Kentucky and Illinois. And no sooner were the cabins built and the first crops harvested than meetings like this one always gathered.
Well, we got the time now, men, and there's going to be no more excuses. We got to do something about educating our children.
Oh, well, why should we, Tom? What good is book learning going to do anybody out here in the wilderness?
Plenty of good. We have a great country here, land that's been mighty good to us, giving us life, giving us a new way of life. If each one of us had time to sit down and tell his children what America really means, then maybe we wouldn't need a school out here. But we got work to do, and lots of work. Before we know it, our children will be growing up ignorant. Is that what you want, George?
No, but you people are planning to keep these youngsters in school for years. Does it take that long to learn about America?
A lifetime wouldn't be long enough, George.
And so in every town and hamlet, there has always been a school. And always great men came from those schools. Always a Longfellow, an Emerson, a Lincoln, a Theodore Roosevelt, a Thomas Edison. Schools have changed as our country has grown older, richer, and wiser. They teach lots of new subjects. They use newfangled methods, too. But the message that's taught is still the same. That will never change. And because it's always been that way in America, perhaps we've taken it a little too much for granted. We've never imagined that a school in America, a democratic, free public school, where anyone is entitled to an education without charge, could degenerate into a temple of hate and prejudice, as have so many schools abroad. In one of the small European countries recently overrun by the German horde, here's what happened a short time after the German occupation.
Boys and girls, I have just received notice that there are going to be some changes in our class. according to the will of the German government. Is that right, Herr Schultz?
That is right, Fräulein. We cannot permit undesirable children to receive the education that belongs only to the pure Aryan, those whose ideals are in complete collaboration with the ideals of National Socialism. Here's a list I have drawn up after careful study, Fräulein. You may proceed as I have instructed you.
Yes, Herr Schultz. I'm going to read the names of those of you who will not be permitted to come to school anymore. You whose names are on this list must realize you should not give up all sort of learning. If you cannot come to school, you must study by yourself.
Fräulein.
Yes, Herr Schultz.
You will make no more such statements. When these children leave the school, they are to leave all thoughts of learning behind. Education is no longer a right here in this country. It is a privilege reserved for those whom the state finds worthy. You will read the list, please.
Pierre Michaud.
You are rejected by the state. Your grandfather was a liberal member of the parliament of this country.
Jeanette Blanchard.
You are rejected by the state. Your uncle is, or your uncle was, the minister of a church near here.
Joseph Lévy.
You are rejected. You are a Jew.
Michel Duquesne.
You are rejected.
All those whose names are on the list are gone, Herr Schultz. But there is one name you have forgotten to include.
I never forget, Fräulein. Of the 22 members of your class, 21 have been rejected. This young boy here, what is your name?
Jean Larue.
Jean Larue is not rejected. He shall be the class from now on. Look at him, a true Aryan, blond, sturdy boy. There should be more like him here in the school. A boy like that will learn fast. What was his rank in the class?
He was the poorest student in the class.
Of course. That only proves what a bad school system you have here. Now, what was it this forgetting to place a name on the list?
It is true, Herr Schultz. You have forgotten one name. Here, I shall add it on myself. At the bottom of the list where it deserves to be.
Justine Beauchamp. There was no one in the class by that name. I have seen the files. Who is this Justine Beauchamp?
She's someone who didn't realize what would happen if school teachers could prove unfaithful to their ideals. That's what happened in Germany.
Fräulein, I insist that
She
you
thought she could be free in a little world all her own. She tried to close her eyes to what was happening. But her eyes are open now, and she'll have no part of the education you Nazis deal out. She'll never see the inside of this classroom again until men like you have been convinced, by strength of arms and ideals, that yours is not the right way of life.
Then you are...
Yes, I am Christine Beauchamp. Good day, Herr Schultz.
No. I'm going to teach this class myself. Now, Jean.
Yes, sir?
Now we shall commence the lesson for today.
But what are we going to study? The soldiers have taken away all our books.
You shall have new ones, too. German books.
But I cannot read German.
You will learn, and at once. You must learn German. It's the language of the conquering race. Your race, Jean.
But I am the only one. Everyone else is gone. Even the teacher.
I am the teacher. Everyone else is gone to save you from contamination. You are the only one pure enough to learn to adore the Fuhrer, to be trained for the destiny of our great nation.
And what of the schools and colleges in America today? How are we taking the precautions that Christine Beauchamp did not realize until it was too late? How are we guarding democracy and freedom of thought at home? Well, here's a story that actually happened in one of our schools not so very long ago.
Hey, what's the matter, Jim? Why are you sore at Jake?
I'm not sore at him. I just don't like him, that's all.
You don't like him? Why, you and Jake have been pals for years. Ever since we started going to school. How come you don't like him anymore?
Well, it's just that I'm not going around being friends with that guy.
Why not? Not because he's Jewish, of course.
That's it. And if you fellas want to hang around with Jake, you can count me out of this gang.
Well, that's the way you want it, Jim. Jacob's a friend of mine, and I'm not going to let him down. I don't care if he's Jewish, or Protestant, or Catholic. Jacob is my friend, and he's going to stay my friend.
Well, boys, I have a real surprise for you today. I'd like to introduce a new member of our class. This is Fritz Schmidt. Fritz was here with his family when the war broke out, and he's going to stay here in the school with us for the duration. Now, Fritz, if you'll just take that vacant seat in the second row, please.
Sir, that boy.
The one I will be sitting next to.
Well?
But he's a Jew. I can't sit next to him.
And I am a Catholic. You're going to be taught by me.
You cannot do this to me. I will not stay in this school with Catholics and Jews. You must teach dangerous propaganda here. Lies. I will not stay here.
Very well, Fritz. You may take that vacant seat in the back of the room for the rest of the day. And after school is out this afternoon, we'll have a little talk. And I'm sure that we'll be able to straighten things out for you.
So you're the little Nazi, huh?
Yes, I'm German.
Well, we don't like your kind around here. Who do you Germans think you are, anyway? We don't want you in this school. What do you come around for?
They told me I must go to school here. I don't like it any more than you. Oh, fine school. They don't teach you how to march and drill and shoot.
Oh, so the school isn't good enough for you, huh? You don't like it here, huh?
No, and I don't like your attitude. I'm not accustomed to being treated like this.
Oh, tough, huh? Well, I guess we can handle you all right.
Oh!
Maybe this will teach you to stay away from places you're not wanted.
Hey, what's going on? Let him alone, Jim. He wasn't bothering you. I saw you picking on him.
Listen, stay out of this, Jake. What do you want to help him for? He wouldn't even sit next to you.
I can't help it. That's the way he's been brought up. Let him alone, I tell you.
Listen, Jake, I'm bigger than you are, and I can beat up the two of you. Now, get out of here, quick.
Not until you let him alone. All right, Fritz, you better go back into the classroom. Jim and I got something to talk over. Come on, Fritz, run.
What a fool you are helping him out. Now I'm going to give you the beating he was going to get.
Boys, what's going on here?
Nothing, Mr. Scott. Jim and I were just practicing some wrestling.
Pretty strenuous practice. Well, you'd better hurry back to class. The bell should ring any minute now. All right, boys. Come to order now. Where's Fritz?
Over here, sir, where you told me to sit before. Next to Jake.
So the youth of America is learning. The boys and girls in schools throughout America are learning not only the fundamentals of a formal education, they are learning, usually without even realizing it, how to live together like true Americans and how to practice the ideals of democracy in their daily life. That's what is important. A president of the United States, James Garfield, told us why when he said,
Next in importance to freedom and justice is popular education, without which neither freedom nor justice can be permanently maintained.
And when a teacher asked Jim to define democracy a short time ago, Jim the bully had this to say.
Democracy? Well, it's a government of all the people, by all the people, and for all the people.
For Jim had learned. And Fritz had a definition, too.
I'm not sure I understand it yet, but I think it means that everyone has the same rights, the same duties, the same privileges.
Yes, Fritz was learning, too. And when it came time for Jake to stand up, he thought carefully for a moment before he said,
Form a government that wants us young people to learn, not just for our own benefit, but so that when we grow older, we'll be worthy of having a hand in our own government.
You see, the youth of America is learning, and learning well, and learning well. And in these times of stress, and peril, the spirit of battle, like the keen, ready, willing, and lest we forget. We know if we forget. We know if we forget. We know perish of free democracy. Electrically transcribed. Presentation of the Institute of Oral...